Namaste. I'm Pulkit Mathur, founding trustee of thespiritualbee.com, and I'm making this quick audio podcast because I've been getting many questions from you regarding the devastating second wave of corona that is unfolding in India. Many of you want to know, why is this happening? What are the reasons behind it? So I will first try to answer your questions briefly, but then later I want to explain to you why these are exactly the wrong questions to ask. I will explain what is instead the right spiritual way to make sense of this crisis. So let us begin. So the first question that was asked is, what is the spiritual reason behind corona? See, there is no spiritual reason as such. God does not want us to suffer. God loves us tremendously. So it is not that God is wishing to punish us, and so he has sent us corona. Then has a hostile nation released a biological weapon in India? Well, the answer to this is that the whole world is suffering. So if any weapon has been released, it is not just against us. People have died in Italy, France, UK, and many other nations. It could certainly be that this virus leaked out of a Chinese lab which was doing some kind of gain of function research. So that possibility exists, but then the whole world has been affected by the recklessness of the Chinese, not just us alone. Then do you think that the suffering of Indians is because we are living in Kali Yuga, meaning that the time is such and therefore we are destined to suffer? See, living in Kali Yuga does not mean that we have to suffer. Kali Yuga is not just for India but for the whole world, and plenty of countries have escaped this kind of suffering due to their wise planning. Then perhaps corona is happening because we are in a bad year astrologically. When will corona end? What is your prediction? Actually, I don't follow astrology at all, so I don't know this answer, and actually I don't even want to know this answer. In fact, in asking ourselves these kinds of questions, we are actually making a fundamental mistake. This mistake is that we are resorting to escapism. Rather than looking at the problem straight in the eye and figuring out how to resolve it, we are trying to avoid the problem by asking these types of questions. In fact, last year somebody forwarded me a video of a young boy who was an astrologer, and he predicted that corona will go away. I think the boy said by October of last year. Now, not only was it wrong, but what is worse is that all these sorts of astrological predictions, they lull us into a horrible kind of a complacency. We think that, according to this astrologer, corona is going to go away in a few months, so I don't need to do anything. It will never come back again, so why should I bother to try to fix anything? Why should I think about it? So this is the kind of complacency that relying on these kinds of astrological predictions generates. And what happens when we become complacent is that we don't introspect. We forget that spirituality is all about introspection, of looking within and trying to see where we ourselves have been making mistakes and how we should correct those mistakes. Astrological predictions just push us into embracing an ostrich-like attitude. Like an ostrich, we hide our head in the sand and we ignore the problem, hoping that it will go away and we won't have to deal with it. So if we introspected a little, we would see that it was not because God was angry or some other nation is out to get us or that the stars are not in our favor or that we are living in Kali Yuga. It is not because of all these things that the second wave of corona hit us so badly. Rather, it was a monumental failure at two key levels of our society. Firstly, the central and state governments failed in their duty to safeguard the health and life of Indian citizens. Even though several experts within India had warned that a second wave was coming, even though we had seen second waves of corona ravaging Brazil, France, UK, even though corona mutations were discovered last year in Maharashtra in October, even though all these signals were flashing red, our politicians just ignored this warning. And this happened both at a state and at a central government level. I would say it was uniformly ignored by most of the politicians out there. And perhaps the reason was that they had managed the first wave quite well and we didn't have that many casualties. So our politicians probably became overconfident. So due to this overconfidence and due to a mistaken belief that was quite widespread in India that corona is gone for good, our central and state governments did not adequately prepare stockpiles of medicines, oxygen concentrators and other supplies. If you look at other countries, they had all prepared these emergency stockpiles of things. But we did not. And on top of this, we dismantled many of those jumbo COVID bed facilities that had been built, and we gave a green signal for all sorts of gatherings, from the Kumbh Mela to election rallies to weddings to all sorts of festivities, things like that, So the last three reasons really caused the coronavirus to spread to even those states where it was not spreading before. Now the second level of failure occurred with us citizens. We ourselves became extremely careless. In my locality in Mumbai, people somehow started believing that corona will happen to them only if they come in contact with those that live in slums. During the first wave of corona, which had spread in Mumbai, mostly the people living in the slums were affected. So therefore, somehow this mistaken belief started that if people live in buildings, they're not going to get corona. They'll get corona only if they come in contact with somebody living in a slum. So those living in buildings completely stopped taking all precautions. They stopped wearing masks. They started attending marriages, parties. In my building, they were playing football, all sorts of cricket matches, all sorts of gatherings were happening. And so we ourselves became complacent. And then the second wave hit. Now another way, and this one is a very, very big and serious reason. So another way in which the common person failed was that we as a nation were so preoccupied with building temples that it never crossed our mind that we should use the money wisely and build hospitals instead. From the government to many wealthy spiritual organizations, each one was preoccupied with building temples. And citizens mainly supported such activities because they all wrongly believed that Hindu culture was somehow under threat from Islam and Christianity, and more temples needed to be built. Now, today we are realizing that it is not temples that needed to be built, but more hospitals. So this was also one of our myopias. The virus of communal hatred blinded us so much that we started thinking that temples will save Hindu culture. But we didn't stop to think, how can temples save a culture? The only way to save Hindu culture, if at all it needs any saving, which it does not in my opinion, but still if you think Hinduism needs some saving, then the only way is to produce more godly men and women. In other words, the real temple for God that has to be built is in our own heart. The outside brick and mortar temple is simply a tool to awaken the inner temple. This is something that my Gurudev, Pandit Sri Ram Sharma Acharya, has always emphasized. In the ashram that he built, which is known as Shanti Kunj and which is located in Haridwar, in that massive ashram, he built a very tiny temple dedicated to Ma Gayatri. So one day somebody asked him, Gurudev, why didn't you build a bigger temple? Surely you had access to funds and you could have built a very grand temple for Ma Gayatri. And he replied, I didn't build a big temple for Ma Gayatri because I wanted to construct millions of living, breathing, walking and talking temples. In other words, I wanted you to become the temple. I wanted you to become more godly and divine. So no amount of building of physical temples will save Hindu culture and will stop crises such as corona from coming. But a few godly men and women with hearts overflowing with love, compassion, sense of duty and courage, such people can become examples which inspire others to preserve Hinduism. And such people can immediately stop corona in its tracks. And we don't have to go very far to understand this truth. Just go to any hospital today. There you will find the living temples, the godlike doctors, nurses, ward boys and sweepers who are doing genuine karma yoga, who are involved in the selfless seva of Lord Narayana, who dwells in the soul of all patients. God resides in the soul of every person. So these medical professionals, along with many other people, including those operating crematoriums, those running ambulances, those manning helplines, food delivery for patients, all these people are the living temples because they have enshrined God in their heart and they are doing seva of God who resides in the soul of their patients. They are the real bhaktas of God. Whether they realize this truth or not, they actually are the real bhaktas of God, the real bhakts, the real devotees of God. Now, diametrically opposed to these godly souls are those greedy and corrupt people who are using the pandemic to gouge money out of helpless patients and relatives. These people are hoarding life-saving medicines and black marketing oxygen equipment at astronomical costs. Even some priests are participating in this vulture-like behavior. They are taking advantage of the situation to charge astronomical sums for the last rites of those who have passed. So what I want to say in conclusion is that if we want to live spiritually, if we want to be true Hindus, if we want to attain the grace of God, if we want India to become Jagat Guru of the world, then we must first and foremost have the courage to look at truth in the eye and introspect. Why are we in this situation? What are we doing right? Where are we going wrong? We must examine all these things and then collectively think of how we can fix our failures. What steps should be taken today so that a third wave of corona of this magnitude does not hit our nation again? This is the proper spiritual perspective. Chasing astrological predictions or blaming God or other factors won't help. We should not bury our head in the sand, afraid to look at the problem. We must tackle it head on by analyzing our own failures and shortcomings. Then when we have taken the right steps, this problem of corona will one day become so small that we will not be worried about it at all. As the saying goes, fortune favors the brave and the prepared. I will leave you with the words of another one of my gurus, Mother Meera. Always circumstances come to reveal hidden weaknesses that have to be overcome. Change yourself and the circumstances will change. God bless you. Om Shanti.